Hello, friend.
Hi, I'm Larissa.
My friends and family call me Lacey.
Welcome to my YouTube channel.
Let's go.
In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a bag out of an old t-shirt. So I have this old t-shirt that I put this patch on, but I didn't really love it that much. And the shirt's too small for me. I have bleached it and sewed the patch from a piece of pink material and another shirt. So here I am. I'm just lining up fold the t-shirt in half and lining up all the sides of it. I'm going to try to cut it into a rectangle, taking off the least amount of material as possible. So if you're new here, my name is Larissa Myrie. I am a fashion designer and a mom of 4. I just recently decided to put some of my upcycled bags on Etsy. Of course, there's a mail strike with Canada Post right now, so I'm still trying to figure that out. But yeah, so I've cut the t-shirt into a square, and here I am. And I'm going to put like a backing material on the t-shirt because I don't want the material to be stretchy. So both sides, the front and back, are going to have backing material sewed into it so that I can sew it on a straight stitch. So I'm just lining it up here. And I'm going to cut it down the side. And I think the material is folded, so I'm going to have to cut the fold just to make it easier to sew it back together again. Put a cat emoji in the comments if you like the cat pillow. That's something my daughters bought for each other, and I've been using it for an ironing cushion because I don't have any of the rounded ironing cushions. I think they got it on Temu. So I'm going to cut a lining for the bag as well. So I'm going to use the backing fabric to size the material for the lining. So I decided to use this bright plaid. Got a bunch of this material from this secondhand store barn that's near me. I really love thrifting and finding cool material at thrift stores. And I'm going to use this plaid material and then a piece of this blue flower material for the lining of the bag here. If you like sewing videos like this, like and subscribe. Thank you. And I'm just measuring it. I'm going to be making more videos about my Etsy journey and probably more sewing videos on this channel. And I'll have to sew it together to be one piece. I really need to get my little sewing area tidied up. I have this really big shelf that I don't think I need, so I need to design some shelves that work better and like move the bigger shelf out of the house, which is like a whole process. And I have like 3 or 4 sewing machines. I have to figure out which one I want to use. I'm taking them all one at a time to get fixed. And I already have 2 of them fixed, and I just took the serger. And I'm gonna have to. I've never really used a serger before, so I'm gonna have to learn how to use the serger. So here I am with all of my pieces cut out now. And I'm just getting the pieces together for the handle. And I end up using the same stuff for the handle as I did for the lining. Okay, so now I'm sitting down to sew. And I'm going to sew the handle together first here. I'm attaching it. It's not quite half and half, but it's like 1/4 the one kind of fabric and then 3/4 the other kind, and I'm top stitching this piece just to give it some more strength. And then I'm going to do the thing where you sew the handle inside out and then right side in it afterwards, and then top stitch around the entire handle. And of course I'm using, like, I think I have purple thread in right now. Generally try to match the thread to the fabric unless you want it to stand out. I love this sewing machine. I paid like $50 for it. I just got it not that long ago. It's older, it's a Singer, it's quite loud, but it goes really fast. And it's worked pretty good so far. I just realized that this part of the handle was a little bit too wide, so I just snipped the side of it and ripped the piece off. I bought one of the new Singers, the new Singer heavy duty machines. I got it off Amazon. I find that it doesn't really go through thick material very well, so I got frustrated with it quite fast. And then I think that I've done something to the parts underneath, because I can't put the bottom plate back on it without it moving around. So I have to, you can see it in the background there. I'm going to have to take that one in for sure and get it checked out. So now I'm just turning the bag handle inside out. I have my partner recording for me. I should be using like a ruler to help me get the handle right side in, but I'm like rushing because of making the video and because the baby's sleeping, so I'm trying to get this all done before she wakes up. So it's ending up taking me longer because I'm like rushing too much. So here I have the handle right side in, even though it's not in the shot. That's what's happening. This is just my partner Ben practicing, focusing, doing close-ups with the camera. Nice work, Ben. So there's the handle, and I'm going to have to iron it before I can top stitch it. So I've decided to stitch the bag pieces together first. So that's the sleeve on one side that I'm just stitching up quickly that I cut off. So I'm just stitching that little top opening part, and then I will be stitching the backing to, I'll be stitching all 4 pieces together at the same time, so there's 2 pieces of backing, and then the front and back of the bag out of the t-shirt material. So I'll be lining them all up and stitching them together here at the same time. So that's what I'm doing now. I was just trying to figure out the easiest way to lay it out so that I could stitch it together. Just trying to figure out the best way to do it is. So I end up cutting the shirt down this seam on the one side, so I just cut it all the way in half, because it's easier to sew back together in a way that the fabric doesn't stretch if I do it this way. If you think that girl's rule, put a heart emoji in the comments. So then I'm going to put right sides together with the other side of the bag here. And then put the other backing on there, like so. And I'm going to try to align it as best as I can. And now I'm going to sew all 4 pieces of fabric together. And this will strengthen the t-shirt material a little bit. And allows me to use a straight stitch that won't break as soon as something like heavy is put into the bag, because it's not as stretchy. Sometimes I will use a zigzag stitch and let it be stretchy, but I'm trying to figure out ways to make the bag stronger and last longer, so I think that this is like one of the ways to do that when it comes to t-shirt material, especially with like older t-shirts, because they can sometimes be like kind of worn out. And the fact that I used some bleach on it to dye it too. So as you can see, the t-shirt material stretched a little bit when I sewed it, and the lining didn't stretch out, so it's off a little bit, but the t-shirt was stretched out on one side like in the first place, so it's not that bad. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm keeping my edges together as much as I can here. So that's done, and then I end up doing a double line on the bottom. I always try to do that. I'm cutting off all the excess around the whole bag here. But I ended up going back and doing a double line on the bottom, just to make sure it's strong and it doesn't get any holes in it. And I do that on the lining too. So yeah, and I save all those scraps and I reuse them to make these other bags as well, that I will make a video of eventually. So here's the reveal. Here's what the bag is gonna look like. Now I'm going to end up cutting that piece of material, the blue flower material, in half here. I'll basically be reattaching the plaid fabric to itself the other direction, and then stitch the flower fabric to the edge of the plaid fabric to make the lining. And then I'll be folding it in half and stitching around all 3 sides and double stitching the bottom. The first thing I ever tried to sew was trying to sew triangles in the bottom of a pair of pants. If you remember the first thing you ever tried to sew, leave it in the comments. Just making sure that I have the edges together here. The cutter on the back of that sewing machine is so dull. I definitely should be using scissors to cut the thread. I just went and bought 2 new pairs of thread clipping scissors too, and of course neither of them are at the sewing machine right now. And there I go, stitching the other piece of material to itself. I really need to figure out how to put music on the videos, but I don't really know how to do that yet. And then I fold the whole thing in half, and I remeasure because I can just tell that I have too much material. I'm measuring against the bag. I'm not actually using like a measuring tape. And I think I decide to take off some of the flower material, so I just ripped a big piece of it off. So now I'm sewing up the side, closing the lining. I've been watching the Bliss Foster YouTube channel. They do fashion videos. It's a guy and his wife. I'll add a link in the comments. So I go up the side and make it, ends up being sort of uneven, and I end up having to cut it so it's even. Just because the pieces of material I'm using are like scraps and a material that I bought from like the secondhand store. There's like imperfections in the material in some spots, and I just try to do my best to try to salvage as much material as I can and work around the imperfections. And like on this handle, it's me ironing the handle there. There's like some spots on there, and I just drew heart shapes over top of it. I think it's a marker from whenever someone went to sell it. They put like a tag on it and then it got marker on it. I think that's what happened. Sometimes I use fabric dye and dye the material, but this time I just like drew some hearts with Sharpie over top of those spots. And there was also like a little hole in in the lining that I just like hand stitched up. My bobbin has decided to mess up. That's the one thing that this machine does sometimes. I think because it sews so fast, messes up the bobbin. So I have to check the tension all the time. Sorry about the buzzing. I've got to turn my notifications off. And I'm top stitching the handle now. I probably said this already, but I like to make the handles extra wide for comfort and extra long so it fits taller people as well. Going all the way around the outside of it. Sometimes I put interfacing in the handle. It will help the material not be as wrinkly and just be have a little more structure, but I kind of like the handles being able to tie them. It makes it a little easier to tie, and I don't think it really matters if the handle is like a little bit wrinkly. Here I am stitching the top of the bag together, so I have right sides of the material together, and I'm going all the way around the top of the bag. So it's going through the lining, the inside or the outside of the bag, and then the backing material that I'm using to strengthen the t-shirt material that I used. And I'm going to sew all the way around and leave a little opening so you can flip it right side in. So here is the reveal. It's a little tough to get out at first. So now I'm turning the bag inside out, or right side in, I should say. I'm trying to be careful not to rip the thread. So here's the grand reveal. I have to tuck the lining inside the bag. It's over to one side a little bit, but I think it still looks cool because it just looks like I meant to do that. And the heart is obviously a little high up on the bag, but you can still tell it's a heart. I think it turned out cool still. And now I'm just ironing the very top so I can top stitch it. It makes it so much easier. If I did it again, I'd probably add a 2-inch piece of material to the top of the bag. And I'm doing it really quickly. The style of these bags is that it really is supposed to be like post-apocalyptic grunge. So made to look good if they're like patch, you can add patches to them. Like no rules sewing, unfinished edges sometimes. I like to leave imperfections in it as long as it's not gonna like ruin the structure or like how strong the bag is, because I do like to sew things that will last. Even right there I put like a little dart in the fabric because it was a little tiny bit too big, so instead of ripping it all apart and like resewing it, I just put like a little dart in it sometimes. Because I'm using upcycled fabric, sometimes the fabric can't handle being ripped apart and sewn again, so I have to come up with alternative solutions. So here I am top stitching it all the way around. And then the next step is to stitch on the handles. So I'm going to do that in a certain way. And I like to do a box or a rectangle stitch around the outside and then across through it to make it strong, so that the handles are not going to ever fall off even if you put something really heavy. And I like to make the handles wider as well, so if you're carrying anything around super heavy, it doesn't hurt your shoulders. Because originally I made these bags to use to carry groceries home. I lived in the city. I didn't have access to a vehicle sometimes, so I had to carry groceries home. And the other bags I was using were always hurting my shoulders and stuff, so I wanted to like make something that was a little easier to carry. Or you could also carry a book bag and then have an extra couple bags. So this is what I came up with. So here I am just sewing my tag on, which just says Larissa Myrie Upcycled. And see, I keep sewing backwards. I'm frustrating myself here, because I keep going over the edges because I'm in such a hurry. I don't recommend doing that. But yeah, the tag just says Larissa Myrie Upcycled, and it says 2025 on it. And then I made these other little hearts with my logo for the upcycled stuff so that I can kind of keep it organized, because I plan on making different lines of bags and I want to be able to differentiate them somehow. I have so many different ideas, and every time I sew, I get more ideas, and I'm excited to develop my next product. I decided to come up with a really simple logo, so it's just a heart with a U on it for upcycled, or it could be a smiley face or a symbol for love you. So I'm sewing the handle on the other side this time. Because I sewed the tag so close to the seam, I decided to fold the handle in half before I stitched it, which just makes it take up a bit of a smaller space. So I'm doing the box and the cross again here. I'm tying the handle just to make it a little shorter. I'm going to cut all the threads off the bag, and then I'll take photos. Thanks so much for watching or listening and hanging out with me. Here's the photos. I think it turned out pretty cool. There's the back and the inside on one side and the inside on the other side. And also we'll wash it and dry it and iron it again before I ship it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.